You're not lazy, you're not broken, and you're certainly not lost. Haven't you been asking God for all kinds of things? Yeah, you're being trained. All of those times you asked for direction, guidance, purpose, what did you think he was going to do? Give you exactly what you wanted? Or did you think that he was just going to hand you the keys and tell you, okay, look, you got to go through this thing, and then you get what you asked for? We all know that whenever we ask for patience, he gives us ways to increase our patience. But do we ever really want the things that we pray for? Because too many of us, as soon as we get that test that's going to strengthen our spiritual, mental, physical muscles, emotional muscles, we start complaining. Then we run away from it. We go a different direction to avoid the very thing that we prayed for. Why is that? It all has to do with our perspective. What kind of lens are we looking through that leads us to these actions? Well, firstly, if we go back, what determines our perspective? Everything that we feed our minds. But the thing about feeding our minds, the thing about the inputs is the enemy, the adversary, the opposition. Yes, we all have an opposition that is out there to kill, steal, and destroy. They are fighting for control over the inputs. Why do you think entertainment is so enticing? Why do you think that when you see something, when you get tempted, that it's easy to fall into it, that seems like there's just a voice in your ear or a voice in the back of your head that's so convincing that leads you to fall into that thing? There are forces that you can't see that if you listen to the right people, they'll call you crazy. These forces are working against you from the moment you wake up. And they don't play fair. They attack you when you're most vulnerable. They attack you in the situations where you would least expect. So what kind of inputs are you planting inside of here? Because the root to everything, the root to all of your actions, the root to your emotions, the way you feel, all has to do with your thoughts, right? Everything begins with a thought. So are you like me when I was younger? Feed myself all kinds of music that led me in the wrong direction. I listened to so much depressing music. Are you listening to that kind of drill music that talks about all kinds of unaliving people? What are you implanting in your mind? Are you watching 7 seasons of a show all at once? Every single weekend, every single night, binge watching something? You realize when we do that, it's easy for us to get captivated by whatever it is we're consuming, that we don't even realize the kind of messages that are being implanted in our minds. And then at the same time, we don't think about that, oh, it's not important. Oh, I just like the sound of this song. Meanwhile, they're poisoning your mind with all kinds of messages, ideas, thoughts that you wouldn't naturally think on your own. You wouldn't put that there if you actually saw it. Have you ever played a song? Let's say you're in the car and somebody rides with you, parents, whoever it is. You play the song and it sounds so much more horrible than you remember. Yeah, and that's the very thing that we continue to feed ourselves. Can you believe that? You see, the difference maker is going to be our thoughts, and our thoughts are influenced by whatever we feed our mind. So, but what happens when we switch the input into something more positive? When we take the time that we use for entertainment, for pleasure, and apply it to something actually worthwhile? I wonder who you could become. I wonder what kind of perspective that you could shift yourself into. That's one of the things that I love about books. When you actually read books written by other people, you get to be exposed to different ways of thinking. And those different ways of thinking help mold your perspective. speaking to different people, listening to actually understand instead of listening just to respond. Being that kind of sponge instead of being that brick, where if you poured the water on either or, that sponge is going to soak it up. Otherwise, the brick is not taking anything. Is your mind closed so you're not open to any new perspectives? So it's the same thing over and over again. It's just this, boom, I think this way, and this way is the only way. You're not open to any ideas? You see, that's exactly what makes the enemy's job so much easier. When we don't expose ourselves to new avenues that are going to launch our minds into a different direction. You have to understand, once we shift our perspective, then we can really, okay, since this is happening to me, there has to be a reason for this. What did I pray? I asked for patience. So I wonder why these people are driving slow. I wonder why this person in line is doing this. When you start to actually understand that God is actually answering more of your prayers than you realize, then you get to start to recognize that, wait a minute, there are so many more opportunities for growth than I even realized were there. But since I had the wrong kind of mindset, I thought everything was just against me, that none of this stuff seems to go my way, when more things are actually going your way than you realize. With the right perspective, it's easy to understand that this is training. This is necessary. Like, I need this. Without this, how am I going to get to the next level? How am I going to step into that new version of me that's waiting for me? I said in the last video, if we had the option to actually take away the trials that we went through, if we could go back somehow in time with a time machine and we had a button to erase, most of us wouldn't do it. Because without those traumatic events, without those times that we suffered when we really didn't want to, it turned out being worth it. But then we take it up another notch. So God has already given me these trials. God has already given me these tests. But what else can I do on top of that to not only become stronger, to grow faster, but to actually prepare myself for the future tests? How can I sharpen my mind to the point where I'm no longer fazed when something happens that it could be easily viewed as negative, but with my new mindset, I actually understand that it's not negative, but it's actually the opposite. It's actually critical, crucial. I wonder who we could become if we adapt that. I wonder who we could become if we change the mindset and start looking at things differently. I wonder what just would happen. How much further we could possibly grow if we start controlling our inputs. If we stop wasting so much time on entertainment, on pleasure, on the short term. Why is it so frequent that we sacrifice our long term for the short term? And then when we sacrifice the long term for the short term, we end up regretting the short term. Then we wish we could turn the time back and then do that thing that we should have been doing. But because we, wanted to just feel better or feel good about ourselves, or just wanted to cheat this day in this moment, just for a little bit of dopamine. Imagine that. What if we could just delay the gratification just long enough to actually make that long-term possible? What if we not only shift the mindset, but we trained ourselves to sacrifice the short term for the long term? To understand that the things that I should do, but I don't want to do, if I don't do the things that I actually want to do, I will be able to do those things that I want to do later. Because those things that we want to do now, there'll always be a thing. They'll always be waiting for us. Always. This is the main reason why I retired video games Like, I haven't touched my PC since like April of 2023. I used to game on that thing for 4, 8, 10, 12 hours whenever I could. Yeah, but what was it really getting me? It just opened myself up, opened my mind up to another avenue of poison, of influence from the enemy. To actually, all it really did was to distract myself from whatever it is that I needed to face in order to get to the next level, in order to step into that new version of myself. But instead, I wanted to distract and sacrifice the long term for the short term. So, what are we gonna do? The choice is always up to us. Every day. Are we gonna sacrifice the thing that we enjoy for now so we can do it later? Because we did all the necessary things in order to actually allow ourselves to indulge in a little bit of pleasure and entertainment, the things that we actually enjoy, and not regret it. You see, honestly, if we sacrifice that now, that short-term pleasure, and we actually focus on the things that are gonna improve our lives and then by default improve the lives of others, we may even completely lose interest in that thing that used to be entertaining. And since we shifted our mindset, the thing that we sacrificed for actually becomes the thing that is entertaining. Maybe we start to have a different level of drive and fire, because instead of wasting time doing this, I'm actually spending time doing this. And although it was uncomfortable at first because I'm not used to doing it, it actually becomes that much more pleasurable because I know it's worth the time. I know that it's going to pay off in the end, even though it's not always going to seem like it pays off right now. Even though we're most of the time not going to realize how much of an impact that is happening to us, and the fact that we probably won't feel any different for most of the time unless we look back retrospectively after spending ample amounts of time doing the same thing over and over again just to see how far we came. Look down just to see how far up we climbed. Can you imagine that? What would life be like if instead of wasting time binging a bunch of shows or playing video games like I did, we actually took interest in the skills that we will build doing more important, more valuable things that are going to pay off in the end, even if they don't pay off right now? Imagine that. Imagine the kind of pleasure we would feel. The kind of pleasure that's actually worth something, but just not from cheap dopamine hits of just swiping and swiping and swiping until we find a video that makes us laugh out loud, makes us feel the kind of way. Why don't we go out and attack and conquer something? So, if you made it to this point in the video, I gotta thank you. I appreciate you. I couldn't express how grateful I am for your presence here. And if anything that I said hits you in a certain way, subscribe if you want to. I'm dropping more of this every day. We're coming through with something. If I didn't come through with something, I probably died or I'm in prison. Because what else am I going to do? Anyways, appreciate you. Shout out to you. Hit the like and all that fun stuff if you want to. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. We're still going to be recording. I'll see you in the next video. Adios for now.